Hey, welcome back to the Mining Pod. On today's show, we are joined by Skot, the instigator of the Bitaxe movement, and Econoalchemist, a privacy advocate and Bitcoin miner. What do all these words mean? We will get into it on today's show. We recorded it down at the National Energy and Mining Summit at Bitcoin Park. Thank you to the Bitcoin Park team for making this show possible. In today's conversation, we really dove into pool template construction, the Bitaxe movement, diversifying who is making ASICs, and then privacy as well within Bitcoin mining. We started the conversation off kind of midway through a point talking about the Pod 256 Telehash, where they were able to mine a Bitcoin block during essentially a fundraising run with Pod 256 Foundation. So congrats to them, and definitely take a look at Pod 256, which I think nicely complements the mining pod. Thank you to today's sponsor. You'll hear from them in just a second, and then on to the conversation.
Are you a retail or institutional investor interested in Bitcoin mining companies? The Miner Mag brings you free data and analysis from all major NASDAQ-listed Bitcoin mining operations to know who stands out. Check out visualized metrics and data-dependent stories at theminermag.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Digital Shovel. Digital Shovel is a leading manufacturer of modular mining pods as well as PDUs and switchgears. Unlike many other competitors, their product is designed and manufactured in North America with a complete UL inspection on the entire unit, not just individual components. Additionally, Digital Shovel is one of the most vertically integrated manufacturers of over 75,000 square feet of sheet metal shop, SMT and wave solder PCB assembly, as well as final assembly all under one roof in Toronto, Canada. Their price point leads the industry when compared to products with rates as low as $69,000 per megawatt for a complete data center with smart PDUs and switchgears. To learn more, visit digitalshovel.com.
So that was the idea for our fundraiser. So we're like, all right, let's do a telehash. It'll be once a year. We'll do it right before NEMS. And let's see if we can get 1 exahash. And that was just like a meme for like the last 2 years on Pod 256.
A long shot.
Total long shot. Like really, I never thought it would actually happen.
Yeah.
But we met a friend while we were at the Africa Bitcoin conference last month in December. And he was like, I got you. I'll give you 1 exahash for 2 hours. Dang. And we're like, dude, let's do this. So everything started coming together and we're talking, we're like, all right, what do we do? Do we do full pay per share? Like point it all to Lincoin?
Yeah.
Do we do CK pool? What do we do? And then John from FutureBit was like, yo, run a solo pool on a FutureBit and point the exahash there. And we're like, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Like that's our style. Let's do that. And so
all in.
One of the park members here, Borst, got the Apollo, he flashed the new image on it, got the node fully synced like the week before the event. And then I made the URL donate.256foundation.org. And then Steve Myers, who runs the Bit Devs here, opened up the port on Bitcoin Park's router so that people could connect from outside. And we started testing it. It worked. And then like a lot of hash rate started coming in, and it was touch and go for a little bit. There were some bugs we had to work out, but everything ended up working out in the end. And we ended up having over 1 exahash pointed to this like solo pool we were running on the Apollo here locally. And we ended up hitting a block against all odds.
We hit a block. No.
No way.
What?
You saw it live here on stream. Do we have a block number?
Yeah, we hit block.
Let us know. I'm pulling up mempool.space. Will you guys shout outside that we just hit a block?
881-423.
881-423.
881-423.
Congrats to Pod 256. We have hit a block.
Yeah, like hour 6, because we were planning on doing this for 8 hours, right? We're gonna
10 hours,
10 hours.
Yeah, we were winding down. Yeah.
Tele event. That's amazing.
Yeah, like we're gonna be here. As
How
long
long
as
did
it
Marshall
takes.
point for? 2 hours? Was that he's still on?
There were some technicalities. I think it took him a little bit. There's this problem with mining pools where if you have a lot of small miners and you have a lot of big miners, it can be tough to sort out the difficulty so that the share rate doesn't just totally clobber the server.
Yeah.
And we had kind of a resource constrained server. So getting that dialed in took a second. So the hash rate was kind of ramping up. We overflowed the list.
Yeah.
We could only scroll down so far. And
so I could see like 46 like unique worker names.
Yeah.
But then there was like another metric on the dashboard that would tell me that there were like 330 some odd entities there. So
That's dope.
yeah.
Okay, before we get any further, let's do like a little intros for people. We have CoinDesk as our syndication partner now. So there's some people who have no idea who you guys are. I think the rest of our audience does.
So yeah, my name's Scott. I'm the instigator of the Bitaxe project. The Bitaxe is a small open source Bitcoin miner. Like think really small, like could be on your desk, which is in stark contrast to the sort of large industrial mining machines that a lot of the hash rate comes from.
Yeah.
It's cool because you can just get into Bitcoin mining with it if you want to just play around. Like you can get it for $150, pretty low barrier to entry. And then we try and sort of open source pill you into it because you can actually get all of the design files, the source code for all the firmware and software are all available for the miner. And you know, that lets people, if they're so curious, to dig in and figure out how it works. It also kind of spawns these businesses in the industry because people can just go and grab the files, take it to a manufacturer and make these and start a business doing that. And we're like a year and a half into this project, and we don't have any way of knowing exactly how many Bitaxes are out there because they don't like phone home or anything like that.
It's getting big though.
I think it's
really
20
big.
to 25,000 is my best guess at this point. So
Yeah.
that I was just thinking about that. That's like somewhere on the order of like 200 amp miners worth of chips because the Bitaxe just has one chip in it, whereas an amp miner will have like 200 chips on it. It's really interesting. It's not a profitable thing to do. Like a lot of people think of Bitcoin mining as like, oh, this is going to be very profitable. I'm going to start a business doing this. Yes,
there's a take that it's not profitable at all. But
there's a lot of challenges to that, but I think that's why a lot of people get into it.
Yeah,
I would say that you should not get into running a Bitaxe for profit because there's just no way. It's not going to be profitable. The cost of the machine for the hash rate, it's just not going to pencil out. But yet we see tons of people getting into it. So they are just people who want to hack, play around, learn. There's also a lottery mining concept to it where you have extremely poor odds of winning a big, solving a block and winning the whole prize yourself.
Which has happened at least once.
Yeah, I think it was like August, like on the first day of the Nashville event. Someone did it. We don't know who it is, but someone did it there. And the only reason we actually know that it was a Bitaxe or highly suspect that it was a Bitaxe is because their worker name was on CK Pool was .bitaxe.
No way.
And the hash rate, which you can see on CK Pool, matched up.
Okay.
But otherwise, we have no way of telling. Like if someone solo mined to their own node at home, we would just see an anonymous block on the blockchain and have no idea where it came from.
I wonder if they sold the Bitcoin or if they even realized. Like some people just forget about
this. Is what we were talking about the other day. It was like, does this person even know that they solved a block?
That'd be so crazy.
I've been following it. You can see the coins have moved off the Coinbase.
Okay.
So someone knows. I should check back in and see if it's like split up or whatever,
it just goes like an AMP pool address at the end of the day.
Yeah,
they control everything.
Went to that.
It goes to Como too.
They all go there.
It's like, damn it.
Yeah, that's how Bitcoin works. Is it actually has to go there.
Kobo has to sign off on any transaction nowadays.
For your listeners that might not know this inside joke, there's some drama surrounding centralization of Bitcoin mining, and that a lot of miners are all using a custodian for their block rewards. They're all using like one custodian for some reason.
Yeah.
There's some drama there. Like physical owners of the machines are fairly centralized, and the pools that they used are fairly centralized. This is kind of bad in the Bitcoin world, is because we're hoping to keep it permissionless and censorship resistance. And so that's like a big part of the Bitaxe project. The 256 Foundation is smashing this up. We got to split up the major players.
Do you guys think of yourself as a hardware or a software initiative, or a little bit of both?
The 256 Foundation's both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. The electronics hardware these days is very intertwined with firmware, which is essentially software. So you can't get away from those software people.
We got to get an intro from Econo as well, which he's actually been on the podcast years ago.
We did that group session.
2021. So you both have been on the podcast. So for anyone listening to this, you can go back in the archive and pull them up. Yours is more recent. It's the last 6 months. I think we did one.
Yeah.
Yours is way back as like beginning of the pod.
Yeah.
Like 2021 or so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eco's an OG like that.
So I got into Bitcoin in like 2018. Kind of thought of it like a stock. I had no idea like what I was getting into. Watched a couple Andreas Antonopoulos videos and then got totally radicalized and fell in love with the ideas of censorship resistance and neutral money and permissionlessness, and kind of just fell head over heels into the privacy space, and really tried focusing on self-custody and censorship resistance. And I started, as I was learning, I started like making these posts on Twitter. They kind of gained a lot of attention. Next thing you know, I'm writing articles for Bitcoin Magazine. I'm doing monthly newsletters for Upstream Data. I'm publishing to the Brains blog, doing podcasts all over the spectrum in the Bitcoin ecosystem, making conference presentations. Things just got crazy for years. And then, like I was saying, I was doing my own podcast for a while, and then I spun that down at the end of 2022, started Pod 256 with Rod, who runs Bitcoin Park here, in January of 2023. And then we decided to start the 256 Foundation. And, we just keep on pushing forward. So I'd call myself like a freedom tech advocate. Anything that enhances freedom for the individual, I pretty much support that. And I do have a lot of written content published. Took some time off and just started getting back into doing like long form writing. And that's in the form of a monthly newsletter that the 256 Foundation is publishing now.
Okay, let's say you do this fundraiser, Telehash, more, and you just get insanely lucky more, and you keep getting these raise events, you might call them. Like what does the 256 Foundation do? Like, what do you go use this money for? You say, it's like, have this broad kind of directive of open source, public, Bitcoin mining. Like, what needs to be done in this category? So
the mission of the foundation is simple. It's to dismantle the proprietary mining empire to make Bitcoin and freedom tech accessible to anyone. So that's our mission. And to help like guide the work of that mission, we've identified 5 critical projects. And so our foundation model works a little bit differently than your like traditional foundation. So it's more of like a bounty system where like we've identified the 5 projects that we want to focus on. And we've raised a little bit of money now, like you saw yesterday, and through our other supporters. And now we can start funding these projects. So the process now is to find the talent to run point on each of these projects. And we hope that through open sourcing the mining hardware, the control boards, the firmware, making it easy to deploy mining pools, and creating a cool blockchain analytics interface dashboard, if you will, that we can like really tip the scales in favor of free and open development on Bitcoin instead of this like closed proprietary black box, these solutions that that Bitcoiners for some reason have accepted for so long from Bitmain and, a little bit from WhatsMiner. But I mean, Bitmain is they've got the lion's share of everything. So despite the protocol being open, free and open, despite the apps built on the protocol being free and open, the third pillar is Bitcoin mining. And for years, Bitcoiners have just kind of accepted that it's like closed and proprietary. And we think that's bullshit and set out to change it.
Yeah. Big players in Bitcoin mining demand stability, regulation, and trust. That's why NiceHash has moved its headquarters to Switzerland, a country known for its strong regulatory framework and for keeping its cheese locked in a safe. As one of the most regulated mining platforms in the industry, NiceHash provides institutional miners with a secure, compliant, and transparent solution to manage and maximize their mining output, delivering the reliability and performance expected from the best mining pools, along with firmware, monitoring software, and other essential mining tools. Contact a NiceHash representative today to learn why the top Bitcoin miners are making the switch to NiceHash. You can find out more info in today's show notes. And when you contact them, let them know the Mining Pod sent you.
Well, the BitX movement, the cool thing about it is like behind the virality, there is like this ethical standpoint on everything. And I think a lot of people who purchase BitXs, I would assume, don't care too much about that. So that's almost a good thing because they just like having it on their desk. I think it's cool. I'd challenge that assumption if you will, but that's how I kind of take it.
Yeah. People obviously haven't talked to everyone who's in it, but I think we get all sorts.
Okay.
I really think we get all sorts. There's sort of the people that might realize that this centralization is a problem and want to do something about it. Yeah. I get lots of comments on Twitter about people who are well into that. But I think there's people who, want to play the lottery. They just have heard about this Bitcoin mining thing. I think there's a lot of people who's like, their kids like brought one over and like set it up and were like, check this out. So it's, in a way, I think orange pilling some people, their first introduction. Mm-hmm. I actually heard from a bunch of people. They're like, oh yeah, like I'm way into gaming and I like to build PCs and I mod them and overclock them and stuff. And I think it's just a natural for the tinkerers and people interested in hardware. I know that personally, that's when I really got into Bitcoin, was when I realized like, oh, there's something I can do with hardware. Because just not really into like financial markets or any of that sort of stuff. Like freedom money is good, but when I realized there's like some electrical engineering I could do with this, it's like hands-on.
Yeah.
Really.
That's how I got really into mining too, was you put out a little home miner box in 21. You're like a Home Depot version of the white boxes, what do you called it?
The upstream data black box.
Yeah. And you made a YouTube video on it. I was like, that's sick. And then I went to Home Depot and built it with some buddies. Took 2 tries. The first one was laughable, but we got it done and it's sick. That really helped push me over the edge into more mining. And then now we're here.
So that's a good point. Like back in like 2021, like the options we had were to take an industrial built machine
it's so bad
and put it in our living space, and so now you had to figure out really creative solutions to like mitigate the noise, mitigate the heat, so that you didn't get divorced and and wind up living on your own. And like nowadays we have the Bitaxe, and it's just like you don't have to deal with any noise, you don't have to deal with any heat, but you can still learn everything about how Bitcoin mining works. And I think that's what's so cool about the Bitaxe project is that it's, you don't have to like get all the battle scars that we got, like trying to put industrial machines in our living space.
And the mission still moves forward no matter what reason people run it, which is pretty cool.
Which is like the Amber thing you guys are working on?
The AmberOne.
Ember.
Yeah, AmberOne.
Can you tell us about that?
So yeah, it's AmberOne was the first fully funded project of the 256 Foundation.
Okay.
It's a standardized hash board, and we'll have it finished no later than April 30th. We'll have a validated design. So similar to the Bitaxe project, we're designing it and open sourcing the design. So we're not doing manufacturing. We're not doing customer support. We're not doing sales, marketing, any of that. We're just putting the
Bitmain
design.
Doesn't do customer support either, so it's okay.
It's fine. Industry standard.
Yeah, so we just put that out there. And
are your instructions in English?
yeah, they'll be
already
awesome. Yeah.
They'll be in English.
Instructions?
Do you have error codes for all your replies?
But yeah, I mean, you fill us in on the technical details.
Yeah, so the hash boards, for those who don't know, are sort of the key component in an industrial miner. They're circuit boards that'll have an array of chips on it. They usually are like 3 of them in a miner. They'll be about 1,000 watts each. So even 1,000 watts is like, if you had just 1/3 of a big miner, is kind of a big ask for a home miner.
Yeah.
Both keeping it cool and powering it. So we're going to bring that down. It's going to be a 100-watt hash board. So it'll be physically smaller, 1/10 the power. And, you know, we're standardizing the form factor with the idea that the first one is going to be powered by sort of reverse engineered Bitmain ASICs, but you could put whatever ASICs you want on there. You know, a designer could put whatever ASICs they want on there, as long as it kind of conforms to this form factor, 100 watts. You know, we have a wide input voltage of 12 to 24 volts. Normally hash boards are like 12-ish. Yeah. This will be more universal in that there's a lot of different options you can use to power it. And then we'll also, the data will be just a USB connection.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's like, you know, Westminer has a ribbon cable. Antminers have a different ribbon cable. We're using a universal serial bus, if you will, that you could just connect to a specialized control board. You could connect to your laptop. You could connect to a PC. So it's very approachable if you want to develop on it, if you want to integrate it into a system. That's the AmberOne idea is you could take and run one of these in your own in your own enclosure.
Yeah.
You could put 5 of them in there, make a 500-watt miner, which would be a decent space heater, or you know, maybe you want to come up with a system to power it via solar panels. I was actually talking with someone who's working with solar panel microinverters, and this is potentially a good pairing for like a 300-400 watt solar panel.
Yeah.
You know, you could have one of these in there to make use of excess generation, like right at the panel. Throwing out an idea if anyone's interested in working on this, but we have a wide input voltage to help deal with that.
I think an underappreciated trend I see in the Bitaxe movement. So you've got this like the hardcore, the eco type person who's like privacy, open source, yada yada. But I see an emergence of almost what I would call like designer Bitaxes, like people flexing like we got this cool enclosure. I've got these like fun like 3D printed stuff. I'll put like my decals. I've seen Ordinals collections do like custom Bitaxe runs.
Yes.
And like give them to people.
Yes.
So like this is interesting like evolution I've seen, which is kind of cool. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. Did you anticipate this kind of thing happening?
I did not anticipate this kind of thing happening, but I'm all for it. Right. It is open source. If you are into Ordinals, that's your own problem, but you can do this.
It is a problem.
There was an Ordinal group that worked with one of the existing Bitaxe manufacturers, and they wanted to have their Ordinal JPEGs on the board, and they ordered 1,000 of them. They were like, "Let's go!" and they gave them out to all their homies. But you know, they only mine Bitcoin, so you know, in the end, it's still a win. But yeah, it's permissionless. You can do whatever you want with it. There's an open source license that you need to follow, but other than that, you can do what you want. Our friend Ronan Miner set one up on the coffee bar up here.
Yeah.
But it's a water cooled Bitaxe. It's really sweet. It uses like little like fish tank components and tubing from Home Depot, but it's super cool. And like, you know, he didn't have to like talk to anyone to do that. Like
we got a video of it. We'll throw it on the YouTube channel for this one too.
Right on.
It looked very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's super neat. And so I love to see those kinds of things. I think all the projects that we're working on with the 256 Foundation is the same kind of thing. Like we could never, ever in a million years guess all these cool applications that people are going to come up with. Right now with the sort of, you know, Bitmain monopoly over this is they make their machines for one purpose, and that is grid connected mining in essentially a data center. Everyone else who's using it for anything else is hacking it with limited success. I think that's ridiculous. We got to open this up. People are going to come up with crazy stuff, build all new markets that we can't even imagine the likes of right now.
Yeah, I mean, even with all these like black box solutions that we've been tolerating, the closed and proprietary Bitmain miners and What's miners, people have still made incredible strides in innovation, like Schnitzel heating his entire home, all the water in his home off of the miners. If you've ever seen Rev Hodl on Nostr, like he's integrated Bitcoin mining into almost every process of his homestead. Or like if you're like Diverter, who's like the guy who wrote the seminal guide on mining at home, mining for the streets, and you don't want to exchange KYC information to get Bitcoin, you can just plug a miner in at your house and pay your electric bill and get Bitcoin for that. And, people have come up with really creative solutions around these closed, black boxes that we're dealing with. So once you open source everything, like imagine being able to change any parameter in the firmware, or like take the engineered CAD file for the board and like change the size of it to fit your water heater, or like whatever application you want to put these in. We're going to see innovation that we just can't even fathom sitting here today.
100%. I'm totally confident of that. We've seen it before in other industries. Like the personal computer revolution was just some dude screwing around, right? We had IBM making mainframes, and some other people were like, that's kind of weird. Like, how about we try computers that people can use at their houses?
Yeah, this has very Linux vibes to it.
I think that's a pretty big inspiration.
In the competitive world of Bitcoin mining, one name stands out: CleanSpark, America's Bitcoin miner. At CleanSpark, efficiency isn't just a goal, it's our standard. Our sophisticated facilities are built and led by expert teams who care about Bitcoin and the communities we work in. Scale, we've mastered it. Our large-scale operations have set us apart in the industry as examples of community-oriented building. Our track record speaks for itself. We navigate the complexities of the new economy with precision and with skill, continuously achieving operational milestones. Curious about how we do it? We invite you to discover the story behind CleanSpark's success at CleanSpark.com.
So, I feel like we didn't treat this subject at the start, and if you're the CoinDesk listener, you may be like, "What do you mean there's like a monopoly in mining?" Maybe your listeners probably already know this because you probably talk about it a lot, but I guess why is there kind of this monolithic or dualithic manufacturing landscape in Bitcoin mining? Why is that an issue? Like, why can't other people just show up?
When Bitcoin started and Bitcoin mining started at the same time, it was done on CPUs. And so it was just software. It was open source. Anyone could go and download it. Then we went to GPUs and FPGAs, which was basically commodity hardware with different software running on it. Anyone can do it. People were sharing techniques. That's how it should be. But then it was inevitable to go to ASICs. ASICs are the chips themselves. It stands for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit. It's basically a chip that is made just to mine Bitcoin. It is like several orders of magnitude more efficient at mining Bitcoin than anything else we've got. The downside to these chips is they are incredibly hard to build. Like tens of millions of dollars to think about starting. Like it's huge. Bitmain has been doing it for a long time. They have a huge head start, like a decade. They have tight relationship with the foundries that make these chips.
There's only to say the feds, weren't you?
I don't know about that. Probably. I mean, certainly in China. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to go there. There's like 2 foundries in the entire world that have the ability to make these chips. They're pretty busy with like Apple and Nvidia. So to even get like in the door at the place, you got to show up with money and like a track record and connections and things. So it's very hard to make these chips. Mere mortals cannot do it. Block is changing up the game here. They're making their own ASIC and pledging to work with people like us, like all of us on it. But anyways, we're talking about Bitmain. So they've been doing it for a long time, and they have total market dominance right now. I've heard numbers from 60 to 90% of the Bitcoin mining machines out there are running on Bitmain hardware. Now they make the whole machine. They make the chips, they make the hash boards that go in the machines, that the power supply, the control board, the firmware, like everything. And it is not open sourced. It's not well documented. It is very closed, and they're actually aggressive against people trying to modify it. They go through quite an effort to make it so that you can't load your own firmware on it. You can't change it. There are several people out there that are making third-party firmware, and they're basically like cat and mouse game trying to stop them, and then they hack it and back and forth. There's a lot of wasted energy in that scene. But yeah, all the big miners run Bitmain hardware and Bitmain firmware, and we don't know how it works. They've been caught doing sketchy stuff in the past, so we don't really have any reason to trust them, which we shouldn't have to do anyways.
Like amp bleed and ASIC boost.
Yeah, these are sort of exploit, like just kind of sketchy things that they've done in the past.
One thing, just to keep going on your point too, is how Bitcoin miners have been treated on the hardware side. So I don't know if you guys bought XPs or if you guys bought T21s, but there's been tons of complaints about those. And so for a lot of people who are putting in these huge purchase orders, they're basically tied to the mast of Bitmain. When things don't go well, they have to suck it up and deal with it. Like I dealt with this personally with the box I made. I bought an S19, and on the early versions of some of these S19s, the heat sinks were not put on correctly, or the temp reader on or next to heat sinks was not put on correctly. It was not soldered well, and so it would just go off randomly, even though the board was fine, and then your unit would turn off, and then you have to ship it back to Bitmain, and it would take however long to get it back. And sometimes you didn't get it back because they would just scrap it, and they wouldn't necessarily send a new one. So like for a lot of people who are in the mining game, like they're kind of beholden to Bitmain. On the flip side, if you have a good relationship with them and you're a big company, like you're doing great because you're like really next to like the fiat tap. The
Cantillon effect.
Yeah, just the Cantillon effect for Bitcoin mining as it is. And so that's where I like the Bitaxe revolution, the sense that like, no, it's going to take a lot of Bitaxes to make a meaningful impact to hash rate, but it does open up the conversation for what other alternatives are out there. You brought up Block, which is cool. Aurodyne's also working on stuff, which I don't know if we can talk about any Aurodyne stuff with you guys, but
I think we can.
Edit that out.
Yeah, there will be a AmberOne AmberOne.
Let's go.
So yeah, that's the whole idea, is that we want to sever ties to dependency on Bitmain.
Yeah.
So yes, the first AmberOne is going to be made with the S19 J Pro chips from Bitmain, but that was
not with their cooperation, right? That's one of the big problems there.
Right,
not approved.
Yeah, reverse engineered by Skot.
Yeah, and like physically unsoldered from miners.
How long does that take them?
It's ridiculous. There's no kind of way to like make hardware, and that's the reason why we're trying to move off this, both in the Bitaxe and the 256 Foundation. Is we can't scale the projects with that setup. Is like even if you bought a new miner, once you've unsoldered the chips, they're used chips. All kinds of problems there. Doesn't scale well. So yeah. I think the goal here is to move to a willing chip partner.
Yeah, and there's other options out there now. So there's a lot of Intel chips floating around. There's going to be an Intel AmberOne. There's Aurodyne chips that are actively being produced. There's going to be an Aurodyne AmberOne. And, Block is working on getting their chips out there. And once they do, there's going to be a Block AmberOne. But because we're keeping that form factor consistent and standardizing it,
yeah,
they can, like, if you've made an enclosure for like your AmberOne with Bitmain chips on it, and then 6 months later, Intel version comes out, you can remove all those hash boards and put the Intel ones in there if you want.
So it's like PC building, you just upgrade your GPU.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You got to get new drivers, but that's a project we're working on too, is drivers for all these chips.
So we have to finish up soon, but I do want to ask about like other Bitaxe variants with different chips. Is that something that's on the roadmap?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the goal for 2025 is to just get off of Bitmain chips.
Okay.
Like I was saying before, it's madness. We have the next Bitaxe is going to be with Bitmain chips. Is going to have two of them. So we call it the Gamma Turbo. It has 2 of the chips from the Gamma. But if all goes well, I think that's going to be the last one that has a Bitmain chip on it. So we're going to do one with the Intel chips. Those are interesting because they're really old. They're like 3 years old at this point.
Yeah, these are the ones that Hive is using for their Buzz miner.
Yeah. I think a number of miners kind of aped into these chips when Intel was pumping it, and then a lot of them are still sitting brand new in the box. Yeah. And didn't get made into miners. And certainly now they're not going to get made into miners.
Yeah, because Intel kind of backed out of their whole ASIC mining program, right?
Classic.
After making like millions, probably on the order of like 10 plus million chips, which are like all still sitting around new. I think these projects actually can make use of these chips.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, you're not super efficiency focused, and like total price or hash rate is more important. So we can just pack a bunch of these chips on there for fairly low cost and get that out there.
Yeah.
So we'll do that with the Bitaxe. There's gonna be some announcements around Aradyne and the Bitaxe. I think that I think Block has kind of lit a fire in a way. Is there like Block is like, no, we're gonna open this up.
Yeah.
And I think some of the other smaller ASIC manufacturers are taking notice. At least that's my theory. I haven't heard that directly, but it is nice to now actually be able to talk to these folks.
Yeah.
I think before they're like, if they wanted to talk to me at all, they'd be like, you want to buy like 1,000 chips? Like, get out of here.
It's like 5 rigs.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Custom build.
Yeah. So, I mean, the movement is happening. I think people are taking notice. I'm incredibly grateful and happy about this. So I see, it only going up from here.
Let's go. Any closing thoughts as we kind of back out here from Nashville and the conversation?
I just want to give a shout out to the Samurai Wallet developers, and they're going through an immense legal battle right now that has the potential to affect every facet of the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's a very important case. You can go to freesamurai.com to learn more. And if you feel compelled, you can show your support by making a donation to their defense fund at p2prights.org. You really should pay attention to that case. They were developers that made a non-custodial wallet. They never custodied users' funds. They never touched users' funds. Users maintain control of their own funds throughout any interaction with the wallet, yet they are being charged for conspiracy of money laundering and conspiracy of operating a money transmitter business. And if the DOJ gets this conviction, that opens up potential persecution for running a Lightning node, being a miner, making any non-custodial wallet.
Yeah.
So it's a very slippery slope, and I think people need to pay attention to it. So that would be my advice for listeners.
Let's go. We've had Samurai on the podcast before,
right? A year ago,
right before that happened. Yeah. Awful. Scott, anything to close out?
I mean, down that same vein, right? We need to ensure decentralization in all facets of Bitcoin, because centralized entities are sitting ducks for regulation, which we know, we've seen. It went, our favor in this last election, but it can change on a whim. And so we just need to spread it all out, because where we're at now, it's like too easy. Like the list of people that a government might have to call to like completely like control Bitcoin mining is way too short. It's way too short. We can't have that. So we got to protect ourselves, protect Bitcoin, and open source everything, decentralize everything.
Thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks for having us.